So I understand that.
Okay, great, great.
Hmm.
So Yuko and I, we're part of the UWM Architecture School, and we're interested in creating a short documentary about what Downer Avenue means to the community. And time again, we've interviewed about 6 residents. A lot of people have mentioned Sendix as a
Actually, all of the
yeah,
people mentioned
everyone
Sending.
has mentioned Sendix as a landmark on Downer Avenue.
We've probably been here the longest of any merchants here on the street. Yes.
And so we wanted to get your perspective on what Downer Avenue means to you. But yeah.
Let me start with a little history of Sendix, how we started here.
Mm-hmm.
My dad opened up his first store in 1929 on the corner of Oakland and Capitol Drive. You used to walk up 5 steps to go to the store. You people are too young to understand that. Then what happened was the Depression came, and he had 4 brothers, and they came into the business too, so one store was not enough. So they leased this area here from the A&P. They sublet it from the A&P. This was approximately 1933 during the Depression time and that. So that 3 came over here and 2 stayed over there. And then the store on Oakland Avenue, the store that's a Sendik's Nearing store right now, that one was the stable for the cavalry. That's where they stored the horses for the cavalry. And my dad bought that from them, bought that from the government, and he converted that into an A&P store and a Sendik store. They sold the groceries, we sold the produce. Then we came over here, and this became too small, really. All we sold was produce in those days. We didn't sell groceries at all. No frozen food, no groceries, nothing, just strictly fresh produce. Then on this stretch of land where we exist right now was the Groban Fish Market, the Downer Locker, Sendik's, Gerhardt Meat Market, the Tuxedo Tavern, and the Lake Park Pharmacy. Around the corner was the Chinese Laundry, the dry cleaner, and the radio store. And little by little, we acquired each of these units and put them all together, and then we built the warehouse in the back. But as far as the front facade is concerned, that's original. What we did is we moved the doors and windows and stuff like that. That we had to do because it was, all little stores. And that's how Sendik's enlarged into this Downer Avenue situation at that time. But we probably are the oldest tenants on this street. In fact, I'm sure that we are. What has happened recently in the last, I would say, 5-6 years is the loss of tenancy on Downer Avenue because of the fact of maybe I shouldn't say, but bad ownership. Bad ownership chased a lot of good merchants off the street. They abused them and they left. So there ended up with a lot of vacancy on Downer Avenue, and there's still a lot of vacancy. Downer Avenue is not what it used to be for that reason, because there's so much vacancy. And that's where we stand right now. And I'm hoping that with this little bit of change in the ownership, that maybe things will start to happen that will bring back Downer Avenue to its original form. But then you also have to consider that the surrounding area of Downer Avenue is not what it used to be. The houses are the same, but the occupants are not the same. It was not unusual to see limousines pull up in front of the store with chauffeur-driven customers, and ladies would get out of the back and come in and shop, and the chauffeurs would wait for them outside. Those days are gone. It's a different climate, a different personality. It's different than it used to be. And I think that's where we are right now. And I'm hoping that things change. We may be in a position where we may change completely. If things don't change here, we may figure on changing ourselves, and just because we have other stores too. And I think that's about all I can tell you on this. I don't know if I'm going off base or what.
No, that's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Could you state when you started managing the restaurant, managing SalSendik?
When I started here?
Yeah.
I started here when I was 12 years old. When I was 15 years old, I graduated from Marquette High School. 3 months later, I became 16 years of age, believe it or not. My father handed me the keys. He says, "Sal," he says, "I'm going to Italy for 3 months. You're running the store." And at 16 years of age, he left me with the keys and the store. And he used to write back or call me, "Don't forget and get enough watermelons for the 4th of July, you know, and things like that." And by the time the mail got here, it was already August, you know. So that's how that started. And then my dad passed away. It's about 22, 23 years ago, and I have 2 sons that were working with me here. And now we've expanded. Now we have 1 son here, and 1 son went, he left the business completely. And it's my son, Tony, and myself in the store here. And we also have the big one out in a big store, about 55,000 square feet in Elmbrook. And that's brings us just about up to date. Do you have any questions of me?
Can you speak a little bit more about what SalSendik means to you and to your family?
SalSendik is, well, you ask a question there that's a tough answer because it might sound sophisticated or whatever way you'd want to put it, but the food business and doing business with the East Side has been a life for us, for our family. That has been our life. I could tell you, just to backtrack a little bit, how the name Sendik got to be, because our name is not Sendik. Our name was Balistreri originally. We converted, we adopted the name Sendik. What happened was my father started out, first of all, before he had a store, he started peddling. He was peddling, believe it or not, with a basket of fruit, standing on the street corners where the streetcars would run. You know, people would get off and on. He'd sell them an apple, a banana, or whatever it was. You know, and a friend of his passed away and had a truck he wanted to get rid of, and my dad ended up buying the truck from him. And my dad ended up delivering on the east side of Milwaukee, which was actually the opulent, the more wealthy families of the city, the industrialists and that. And what happened was he used to deliver it to a particular woman, Mrs. Heifetz, Yasha Heifetz's sister-in-law. I don't know if you know Yasha Heifetz, world famous violinist. I mean, if you mention that name to people my age, they know Yasha Heifetz, you know. And my dad had rheumatoid arthritis so bad that he would limp up to the door. Anything today, you know, he's speaking broken English. He came from Sicily when he was only 16. Actually, when he was 15. He said the only lie he ever told in his life was when he told him he was 16 so he could go to work. So anyway, Mrs. Heifetz would see my dad limp up to the door and say, "Tony, why don't you open up a store?" She says, "then we can come to you instead of you coming to us. It'd be easier. You don't have to walk so much." And so he did. And that's where he opened up his first store over on the corner of Oakland and Capitol Drive. And it was Mrs. Heifetz. And then the name Sendik was an uncle of my father was a peddler, peddled to institutions. And he started with the name Sendik. Now we're going to go way back. Okay, when they first came to this country, my father came with his father and 2 brothers, and they came to this country. They all lived in a little 2-bedroom house in the 3rd Ward. It's a good thing that some worked during the daytime and some worked at night, because some would get out of bed and the others would get in, you know. That's the way it worked. Well, they needed a stove because theirs was no good anymore. And they got together and they says, "Oh, we got to get a stove." He says, "Well, there's one at the auction. There's going to be an auction. There's a stove at the auction." He says, told my grandfather, "Sal," he says, "why don't you go and buy it?" What do I tell him? I don't know what to say. He said he didn't speak English, you know. He says, "Well, just tell him to send it. That's all." So here, give him the address. sees the horse and wagon coming with the stove that's in the front window right now.
Oh, that's the one.
Yes. That stove, he sees that on the horse and wagon, and he sees it coming, and the guy's looking for Send It. And everybody starts laughing because they knew the address, but there's no Send It. And he says, yeah, he says, Send It. He says, hey, that's my stove. He says, no, this belongs to Send It. Send It became SalSendik. And the name stuck because it became kind of a joke. And the name stuck, and that's how the business got the name. So you see, there is a little history here. Mm-hmm. I used to have all the pictures in here. My son John took them out of here when we came across when I came across on the boat. When I lived in Sicily for 3 years, and when Hitler and Mussolini got together, we had to get out of Italy. Maybe I should turn this off right now. It has nothing to do with that, you know. But we had to leave then, and we came back. And we have a picture on the ship of us coming back, and a year later it was sunk in the Mediterranean. They were using it for a troop ship. Okay, are we through? Yeah, or you got more questions for me?
Do you have any kind of photographs we can actually look at?
No, I just, this is what
Johnny took them all home.
He took them all out of here. Well, Tony, take that one down over there, or maybe you can take a picture of that one. Do you have something?
Oh.
That's myself and my 2 sons.
I'll have to look how many you want to do. Okay.
That's some part of a Milwaukee Journal ad there. I don't know. He took all those pictures out of here, I guess, for some reason. I think he was going to put them all in a book.
Take your camera.
Just take a picture of the picture, don't remove the picture.
Yeah.
The one on the left there.
Who's in the picture?
That's my dad, myself, and my 2 sons.
Oh.
What would you say, Tony? You were what about? That'd be 40 years ago? 38 years ago, 35 years ago. Time goes by. My dad here. My dad was one of the first ones that started putting flowers in the store. He used to have a door in the center. People came in from this side and they went out from this side. And the checkout counters were here. So nobody went over by this window. They used to come in when they were going out. When they, what are we going to put in there? We're going to do something with that window. He went and he bought flowers. He used to buy them, the originals, 25 flowers in a bunch. Piled them, he didn't even put them in water, just pile them like cordwood. It would sell like crazy. I went to Marquette High School, like I said, graduated when I was 15. I graduated from Marquette University when I was 20 years of age, and 3 months after I graduated, I got drafted in the Army. So, while I was in the Army, I had an opportunity. I used to love to be a baseball. I was a baseball player. I loved to play baseball. I had an opportunity to sign in the Red Sox minor leagues in the chains. I was a catcher. And instead, I came home because I was an only son. And being an only son, you kind of follow in your father's footsteps. And that's tradition, I guess, and that's what does it. See, I'm named Salvatore because my grandfather was Salvatore. And the tradition is that your first son is named after your father's father. That's why my grandson is named Salvatore.
It was
just tradition. Tradition, that's what it was.
Grandfather's grandfather.
That's the way we were brought up, you know. And being an only son, I gave up the idea of baseball and everything else, and I came back and sold bananas.
Were you conflicted at the time?
No.
Or was it a no-brainer for you?
No, it was probably a no-brainer. You know, kind of looking forward. I mean, I was a college graduate. I was in business administration from Marquette University and that, and graduated actually in 3.5 years. And at that time it was Korea, you know, and they grabbed me, and I never left the country. I got as far as Fort Lewis, Washington, and they cut it off. They stopped the Korean situation and they sent everybody back. So I never left the country, thank God.
How do you think Tony, was Tony and
Tony and John.
John, when did they become, from 18 years old?
They came in right from school. They too came in and followed in the business, and then we ended up, we bought the store in Bayside on Brown Deer and Port Road. I sold that just this last year, and then a few years later I bought the one over in Elmbrook, and right now we have this one and the one in Elmbrook.
Is John managing?
No, John has left the business completely, just as of a matter of a few months ago.
Okay. Who's managing the Elmbrook?
Elmbrook store, I have good management in there. I have excellent
is it
management.
family?
I have about 125 employees there. No, I have very, very good management. We feel very safe with it and very good with it. Yeah.
What do you think makes what makes SalSendik?
SalSendik makes. I think it was probably quality. We were quality minded, and that's what people came here for quality. They didn't come here just for price. They came for quality. And when it came particularly to the, quality in a box of cereal is a box of cereal. It makes no difference. But when it came to produce or meat, that's where the difference is. The difference is a store is made up of two elements: the perimeter and the center. The center of the store, everybody is the same. You could be 10 cents less or 5 cents more or whatever it is. But what makes the difference is the perimeter. That's the flowers, the bakery, the deli, the meat, and the produce. It's the perimeter of the store that makes you come back to the store, not the Kellogg's cereal or whatever.
Right, that makes sense.
Because you can get that any place.
Do you remember when you first came into the store when you were little?
Sure.
That moment. Can you just describe the moment?
I came in here, I was 13 years of age. At that time, the brothers were still together. In 1949, they split up. When they built the Silver Spring store, then the brothers split up. Two went to Florida. One was in the real estate business. The other retired. The other one took over. One was in the real estate business here. One was in the real estate business in Florida. The other one took the Silver Spring store, and my dad kept this store. And I came to work here, and he used to pay me 15 cents an hour when I started. It didn't mean anything, Yeah. And he's gone now about 21 years. I miss him.
And how old are you?
I am 78 years old. I'll be 79 in March. And I think I will be doing this until they put me in the box.
And why so?
I love it. I just love to do it. It's something it's in your hands. It's something you love to do. I was brought up in it, and I just love it. And I had probably the greatest teacher there ever was in it, my own father. Everybody respected my father. It was amazing that my father, as a kid, I used to see industrialists, the Elines, the Ellises, the Bradleys. They used to come and sit in the back room on a apple box and have a discussion with my dad. And my dad probably had an 8th grade education, and he was the smartest man I ever knew because he never stopped learning. He used to love to read. He never stopped learning. In fact, during the crisis time of the Second World War, and that he used to get a Time magazine here, and then we used to get the subscription from Europe for a similar magazine made in Europe so that he could get both sides of the story. He didn't want to just hear the American side. He wanted to hear the European side too of the story. He knew he was a lover of arts. He knew the libretto of just about any opera you could. He used to go when I was at the age where I was starting to run the store. He would go about at least 2 to 3 months of the year. He'd go back to Sicily because he had a home there. He had a home and a lemon orchard in Sicily, and he used to go back. But he always used to go back through La Scala. You have to pick up an opera in La Scala on the way. He loved the arts and loved culture. Honest, honorable man. When my dad passed away at Furick Funeral Home, I'll bet they waited. He died in January, and it was extremely cold. And people were waiting outside to get into the funeral home to see him. And I used to say, I said, Dad, if you could only open your eyes and see who's here. You know, it was amazing. He was just an amazing guy, you know. But, you know, never had too much school learning, but never stopped learning. That's the difference. Some people stop. School stops, and that's it. You know, they think they know it all. He never stopped learning. It was amazing. Okay, let me stop taking up your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Maybe I talked too much, huh?
No, I think that was great. Thank you.